Hello and welcome to Films for the Very First Time. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, as we watch movies and TV shows, alternatingly presenting these to our co hosts, as always, Casey McGeorge.
Oh, how's it going, everybody?
It is going well. Last episode, we started season 3, the new version of the podcast. I've been calling it 3.0. We have the new theme song. We have a rule carrying over from season 2 with the wild card. And we also have a first this week. But yes, last week we talked weird science. And this week we're going to be talking the visual poem on Netflix called The Lonely Island Presents the Unauthorized Bash Brothers Experience. I kind of gave a little bit of a primer about this last episode near the end, but yeah, they call it like a visual poem. Apparently, that's also what like Beyonce's Lemonade is considered and stuff. So it's kind of in that type of vein. Pretty much music video that runs for the whole album, and very stylistic. But this is a parody, funny comedy visual poem based around the Bash Brothers, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, when they played on the Oakland Athletics. So I guess before we kind of get into this, Casey, if you want to kind of tell me your background with the Bash Brothers.
So I am 46, about to turn 46. Uh, I turned 10 years old in 1988. That is the year, the season that the Oakland Athletics made it to the World Series for the first time. Uh, or the Bash Brothers, rather, not the Athletics. The A's have won plenty of World Series before. But they made it to the World Series against the LA Dodgers. That was the year Kirk Gibson hit his home run at the end of game one off Dennis Eckersley. Uh, the Bash Brothers, Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire, were the only way to describe it were they were pure rock stars for this time period. We talked about it last episode. Baseball was a much different game back then, where they didn't necessarily. Their object was to get people on base, move them around base, and then eventually drive them in, right? So you only had maybe a home run hitter or two, but most times you only had like 30, 35, 40 home runs. It was like the max. It had been a few decades since they had a 50 home run person. I think I'm probably wrong, but I think Susfield was the first one in a while that went back for a few decades. Um, and then these guys came along that just destroyed the ball. And Oakland did not have a huge ballpark as it was. So it was much easier for them to destroy the ball. And the yellow and green colors kind of captivated people. It was around the time MC Hammer came out. He previously, during his childhood, was an Oakland Athletics bat boy. Um, like I said, the only way I can really describe it is they were just pure rock stars. Canseco was dating Madonna. He was this massive figure, literally and figuratively. I think he's like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in there. Tanned, muscle bound. Mark McGuire at this time, not so much. That changed a few years later. As anybody who enjoys baseball knows. But yeah, it was a much different time in baseball. I was a New York Mets fan during this time period. I have since left my fandom of the New York Mets since they could not hit 6'4", 250-pound Roger Clemens with a baseball one game. And that's literally when I gave up my fandom of the New York Mets. Now I just kind of check in on baseball occasionally and during the World Series, or if there's great things happening. But it was interesting to see them. They had Eckersley, they had Dave Stewart, called the Bulldog, who had this intense stare down before he would pitch to you, and he was a fantastic pitcher. I think he won World Series MVP the year they did win the World Series. '89 was the year. I think it was the year San Francisco and Oakland, right across from each other, played each other in the World Series, and I want to say that was the year they had a massive earthquake in San Francisco that delayed the World Series. So this was definitely a formidable time in my childhood, and I remember a lot of it very vividly, as you can tell from my rambling memories here.
Yeah, I mean, Canseco and McGuire were, you know, huge for me growing up. I grew up in the 90s, the steroid era, before the comeuppance of that era, before we realized what was going on. Um, so I actually don't remember Canseco that much as an athletic. I mean, he left that team in 92. So I kind of remember him more on like the Rangers, the Devil Rays,
When he started
and
going down the goofy route, the Red Sox has a baseball bounce off his head that ends up being a home run. Then
right.
he
We
starts
have
telling on everybody about the steroid use and everything else.
June 24th, 2001, his last season. He's on the White Sox. My dad and I go to see this afternoon game, and uh, we're there for batting practice. And Canseco hits one to where we're sitting, and it kind of goes behind us, and the people are scrambling for it, but it kind of goes underneath the seats and drops down and lands right at my dad's feet, and he just casually like picks it up and pockets it without, like, everybody's looking for it, and he just like swiftly, you know pockets it. So somewhere in my house is a Canseco uh
Baseball.
batting practice home run ball. Yeah. So that's
He,
like something that's always stood out to me.
I think he might be one of the few, if not the only person. Well, I think now one of the few people who have over 500 home runs who's not
uh
in the Hall of Fame,
he's
or
got
he's real
462.
close.
He's got
Yeah, he's close.
462. Yeah.
I knew he was getting close, and then nobody wanted to sign him after everything started coming out.
Yeah, six-time All-Star, two-time World Series champ, AL MVP in 88, Rookie of the Year
Who
in
did he win the
86.
second one with? I know he won one with the
Yankees.
Athletics. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, in 2000 is when he won the second one. That's the year before his end. For McGuire, I remember him more as a Cardinal, and I think
Yeah.
most people do nowadays. And this toy that I had of Mark McGuire that looks like it's on steroids itself, um, where it is like this. You put a little like a ball on a tee, and then you press the button in his hip, and his arm
On the
swings and
sideline.
makes contact.
Okay.
So they had one of like this and Sosa during that era, and I think there may have been a Griffey one and stuff like that. But
So I think we've talked about this before, but so I remember the what was it, '94 strike, or lockout, whatever it was, that actually
yes,
cost
it
them the
was
World Series.
strike. Yeah.
Um, that actually the Expos were actually like the best team in the majors at the time. There's a chance if
Mm-hmm.
that season goes on, obviously we don't know what could happen, but there's a chance like the Montreal Expos could win the World Series, and consequently they may not be the Washington Nationals now. You could have had
Yeah.
Griffey had a chance to break Maris's record at the time. I think that was more of an outside shot. Gwynn was at like 390 something that season, um, where he was really flirting with batting 400. And I think a lot of people have said if anybody was going to be able to break 400 again since Ted Williams, it would have been Tony Gwynn.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first year in a long time there was no World Series. And then I remember the Home Shopping Network later that year had a bunch. They were selling a bunch of balls that were supposed to be used for the World Series. That were going to
Oh,
be these
nice.
quote unquote collector's items because it was the
Yeah.
worst first year since the early 1900s or something that there was no World Series. But I think they sold too many of them and they probably weren't a collector's item anymore. Kind of like when I was a kid, I remember the Death of Superman comic book that everybody
Oh
swore
yeah,
was
in
going
the
to be.
'90s. Yep.
Yeah, it was like 93, 94, 95, somewhere in there. I was in high school. Everybody swore it was going to be like this massive collector's edition. It was going to be worth money. But I think they oversold how many they were going to make. And they're
That's
probably
'90s
not worth it.
comics in general. All right, everybody saw how much the old number ones were going for, and big event comics were going for that were old, and they were like, let's print tons of these in the '90s because we're selling like hotcakes. And then and people were buying them almost like scalpers, right? Where
Yeah.
people buy these things and then to hold on to them, but like the value's not there as much. Um, but yeah, I'll take a quick second to plug this. I only have one episode of this out right now, but I do have a baseball podcast that is focused on old time baseball. You just referenced like the last time there was no World Series before '94. I specifically look at like um kind of like pre 1950s. Right now, like I have done a story based in 1903, and I'm writing another episode as well, but it's called Our National Pastime. I have one episode out right now, and it is about a guy that shares my last name who played for the Baltimore Orioles in
Oh,
1903 when they were a minor league team. And uh, just like he only played for them for 1 week, he had like this whole it was this crazy back and forth of him jumping teams throughout the 1903 season. So that's up there. If people are interested in that, it's called Our National Pastime. And my plan is to look at episodes and like write, like episodes and videos prior to like anything 1950. Um, so it could be a player that I'm highlighting, it could be a team I'm highlighting, or like a new rule change and how that affected baseball. That's kind of the goal there. But baseball's been I call it my first love, right? Because like now soccer is kind of on is above it or on par with it. I always go back and forth on that. Like soccer and baseball are my two favorite sports, and but baseball I loved first. That was my sport when I was growing up. It was the one I played the most, and uh, it's the one that has stuck with me. And look, part of it is this home run chase between Sosa and McGuire in the '90s, and it was exciting. There's a great documentary on ESPN about that, but that's before it was kind of tainted. We didn't really know. I think most people knew, but as a kid, I did not know. Okay,
so
as a kid, I didn't know.
I will say baseball desperately needed that chase, right? Uh, I think there's been enough done about how after the strike or the lockout, which I don't get why they did in the middle of the season and not at the end of the season. But whatever. After that,
Yeah, I don't know.
after that happened, like people lost interest, and that's when it
Hmm.
stopped kind of becoming the national past.
And they
Viewership
kind
went
of
down.
cover that in that documentary. It's called like Long Gone Summer. I almost picked it for one of these episodes. I might sometime,
You
but
know, those two broke out. It was a massive thing. I think I've referenced this before. I think where the game where uh, McGuire breaks the record, they were playing the Cubs, and as they were starting to get close, Fox had because back then you could only get like so WGN, the Chicago Superstation, would carry a lot of Cubs games.
yep.
TBS would carry like all the Braves games.
Braves. Yep.
Um,
That's how I used to watch a lot of Braves. They were like my National League team when I was growing up. Because
yeah, because
if
like you could
if the
always catch them
Orioles
on.
weren't if the Orioles weren't on, I could watch an afternoon game or whatever. I come home from school, turn on TBS, and I'm like, oh look,
The Braves are playing. Here's Ron
Braves are
Gant
on.
at bat. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Uh,
Chipper Jones.
the it used to be Madison Square Garden. I think it might have changed to the Yes Network. Carried the Yankees games a lot.
Yes, yeah.
Um, But then everything else was kind of regional. Like you would pop on like whatever random station and you would catch like a local game. So and then Fox had like a game of the week every Saturday afternoon in the spring and summertime, right? And so they worked out a deal with Major League Baseball as this is because Fox also carried the World Series at the time. So as this starts ramping
And
up,
they still do, by the way. Fox has not given that up. Like they've had the World Series, I think, my whole life at this point.
Fox cuts a deal with Major League Baseball to carry these games as Sosa and McGuire are like ramping it up and they're cutting close. And it was whatever day King of the Hill was on, they made Mike Judge made a special promo for King of the Hill because it was like supposed to be the season premiere. But he talked about how like, hey, we can't have our season premiere. So he's like, Mr. Sosa, Mr. McGuire, could you please hurry up and break this home run record so we can get our show back on the air? And obviously it was a nice little thing that they did. I don't know if they got paid for it, how that worked. Sure, there might have been something that floated back and forth, but it was something nice that Mike Judge and the guys from King of the Hill did. And then I remember watching because, like I said, it was just on Fox. It was just on a regular channel. You didn't need, not like watching baseball now where you need packages and everything else. And the unfortunate thing is McGuire's record-breaking shot was like this little barely over the wall. Like it wasn't this massive moonshot that you would think you'd get from Mark
Right.
McGuire. It was just like this little dinky, barely over the wall, and you're like, that's it. That's what breaks the record. God damn it! And then I think it was the next year, the year after, that's when they found the Andro in his locker because McGuire wasn't hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally just sitting right on his shelf as he's doing an interview with some reporters, and then things just started going crazy. And then lies and various other things.
Yeah.
Sosa couldn't speak English all of a sudden, and then
Yeah, I mean it's a crazy time, and we get we'll talk about it throughout this, but there is of course plenty of references to the steroids and stuff throughout this experience. But
okay. So before we start, I'm sure
mhm.
I've asked you this before, and you probably told me. What is your stance on these guys? If you think these guys should be in the Hall of Fame, I think they should because I think baseball's gone through, many different eras. Eras where the game was segregated and they weren't playing
Mhm.
with each other. Uh, they changed the pitcher's mound for a while, so that changed some of the game. There was massive drug use in the late 70s, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Not performance enhancing drugs, just like who was it? One of the pitchers talked about throwing a perfect game or a no hitter on LSD, and he was open about it, right? Like,
Right.
but there was massive drug use back then, and there was different things that were going on. I think baseball kind of knew and turned a blind eye because they needed the money, the fans, and the revenue coming in. And I think it's a situation of you cannot tell the complete story of baseball and just kind of like black out this whole period and act like it didn't happen. Kind of like Germany does with from like 1929 to like 1945, where they just act like that period in time just doesn't exist, even though everyone else is like, no, there's some stuff that happened there. Like, you know, I think they should be. I think stuff should be on like, even if it's not proven, if it's suspected, put it on their plaque or have a steroid wing. But I think you can't tell the complete story of baseball without McGuire, without Rodriguez, without Barry Bonds, without, as much as I hate him, Roger Clemens, and some of these other
Right.
people who have been caught or suspected of performance enhancing drugs.
Um I have kind of waffled about this a bit, I think. I think when it first happened, I was a little bit more like never ever should they be in. Um Once they let David Ortiz in though, it's like there's enough evidence there against him. I don't know. It feels like why are we then Like, and Barry Bonds was great before he even did that anyway. So like, I would say Bonds deserves to be in, uh, just from pre-steroid numbers as well. He only started doing it when he started realizing everybody else was, and then he's like, well, here's the thing. So once some people start doing it, everybody starts doing it, and some of them will never know because their job is on the line. Their livelihood is on the line. And they're like, well, if that guy is going to go ahead and cheat, then I want to get that big contract too and set myself up. Or like I run the risk of um being cut, for more of the borderline players if I don't do this because the guy next to me is doing it. And it
I,
leads to this whole conundrum of how do you even draw the line at that
I
point?
don't know if it's ever been proven or not, but to me, you can't tell me Brady Anderson in his 50 home run year wasn't doing something. There was something a little weird there because
And we don't talk about that.
that is such an
He was clean.
I'm just saying that is such an outlier. Like at least with
He
some
was
of these
clean,
other
damn it.
people, at least with some of these other people, they had power and it just kind of incrementally went up, right?
Right.
Or like it helped them keep their numbers up. But like I think that's the one that might have been the one that the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of things. Is like, okay, wait a minute, Brady Anderson, and there's nothing against him. He might be a fine person, and look, I'm not saying that if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't have done the same thing. I can't act like
Mm-hmm.
that's not something that would cross my mind or something I wouldn't do. So I'm not gonna act like no, I
You
would never
know,
do that.
you
But I'm
know who
just
I
saying he
actually,
jumped from something to 50. It's like, come on,
who I have the hardest time with actually is
Biggio.
the no, I was gonna say the people that get popped now for it after all of this stuff.
Yeah,
With
because
all of the tests that they have now, how many times these people get caught and the stakes that are out there, I'm more upset at like Tatis Jr. who got, a year or two ago. And then it's like, look, we went through that era. We're not going back to that era. You know, we're done with that. And
we have so
it
much
annoys me more.
technology now. We have so much technology now that helps hitters with their swing and their hand-eye coordination and
Mm-hmm.
all these other things that they can do that wasn't available to these guys previously, right?
Right.
Um, and just much better information about health and welfare and wellness in general, and natural ways that they can get their strength up, and different exercises they can do, different things that they can isolate just certain muscles and how they're gonna to get that and launch angle and all this other stuff that they use, right? Yeah, if you're getting caught now, like I don't think there should be any sympathy. Like I have no sympathy for you getting caught now. Like you said, we went through that. We caught all the people. We said it's bad. We said we've laid out like all everything that says, these are the punishments: 80, 100 games, season, lifetime ban. No, you can't appear on postseason, rosters and stuff. And people are still doing it. So
Yeah. All right. I guess let's dive in here. So this is a visual poem. Uh, it is a list of 11 songs um, that are in the special. I mentioned it last episode, but they do put two of these songs out of order on the album. So I'll kind of highlight what those are, I guess. But it kicks off with the first song, right? Because we get like the whole like artsy, opening stuff with Jose Canseco, played by Andy Samberg. This release, by the way, May 23rd, 2019. I believe it was just dropped. I don't think there was a bunch of
promos for it
um
or anything.
promo for this. I don't know. I think I was brought attention to it either I was scrolling Netflix or the baseball subreddit as I'm on my lunch break at work are like, hey, this thing just dropped. And I'm like, all right, I'm going over and spending the rest of my lunch break watching this special, which I did. I watched this on my lunch break during in our little cafeteria pre-COVID times and watched it and had my mind blown at that point. I was a Lonely Island fan as it was anyway. They were a big part of SNL during my high school years.
So okay, so how many people other than Andy Samberg are in Lonely Island, and did they actually appear on SNL outside of like whatever Lonely Island skits? Because I don't know much
So
about Lonely Island.
yeah, Akiva Schaffer, who plays Mark McGuire in this, is part of the Lonely Island, and Yorma Tacone, who is Joe Montana at the end credits. He's also the reporter that kicks off this like interview when they're when it starts going to the opening song. But they so I think Andy, Yorma, and Akiva were writers on SNL. Um, and then they started doing the digital shorts, which Sandberg was more of a performer on SNL as well as a writer, but like he was more of like the face of Lonely Island. I feel like, uh, and they would write Lazy Sunday, which was their big breakout. I Just Had Sex, Natalie's Rap, Dick in a Box, Jizz in My Pants, I'm on a Boat, Threw It on the Ground, Jack Sparrow, Like a Boss, um, Mother Lover, the sequel to Dick in a Box, right? So they had all of those things going on, and they've had several albums. They've had 3 albums: Incredibad, Turtleneck and Chain, and the Whack album. Most of those have songs from the digital shorts on there. And then they had a movie called Pop Star. I haven't seen that yet, actually. It just left Netflix, and I was gonna watch it, but and of course this soundtrack as well for the Bash Brothers.
Did either of the other two ever appear on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or were they involved in like the writing of Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of. So Akiva actually directed a couple episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
He's more behind
Behind
the
the
scenes.
scenes.
He is an actor in one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine back in 2018. Yorma was, let's see, he acting roles, television. Yeah, he directed an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the Thanksgiving episode in season 1. It looks like, and he appeared in a 2016 episode in the Coral Palms arc for Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh,
So
where
he
they went
was in
down to
that.
Florida.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, that is where. So they both kind of started doing a lot more directing and like writing. They're not as much on the screen, I guess. I would say Yorma's pretty more on the on TV screens than like Akiva. I would say Akiva's taken a lot more of the back seat when it comes to acting. And Sandberg being the biggest star out of them. So um where was I going with this? Okay, so we start off with the song Jose and Mark. This was actually apparently done for a concert that they were doing, a special event thing that they were doing, and they made the song Jose and Mark for that. And then they loved doing that so much that they would just spend their off times writing more songs from the perspective of Jose and Mark, and then eventually was like, oh, maybe this is an album, maybe this is a special, like something that we can do with this. So they had like 10 or 11 songs, and they were like, what's the funniest thing we can do with this? And they said, a very serious visual album a la Lemonade. So that's what they decided to go with. They both, both Schaffer and Sandberg grew up as um,
Ace
Athletics
fans.
fans in the Bay Area, while Yorma actually grew up as a Giants fan. But they're all from the Bay Area, so um, yeah. So we start off with the song Jose and Mark, big rap song. Jose, this big personality, and the main punchline of this song is how much Jose is talking, going, and you just get the "I'm Mark" from Mark McGuire a lot of the times. Not a big beaming personality coming from Mark McGuire, and that pretty much stands with his whole career, I think. Right? Like you don't think Mark McGuire is that
He's not as much of an outgoing personality
right?
as Kincaid. Or as like Sosa was during his, when they were both having that. As far as I can remember, McGuire was more of like an understated kind of, yeah, like just a really understated person. Like, kind of just went out there to do his job. I'm not saying he didn't like, do stuff for kids or whatever. I don't know, but he wasn't in commercials. He wasn't in the tabloids. There wasn't a lot of news about him, at all. Not as nowhere near like he said.
So, what was your first thought? This is the first song, very, it's rap, it's very loud, boisterous. Jose immediately steps on. They have like these, like, it almost looks like, I don't know, like Sunday Night Baseball graphics behind them, like primetime game, right? Like, you know how they'll cut to some of those cool graphics for like football or baseball players kind of going on fireworks, all that kind of stuff. What was your initial impression here once you
The,
realized after I told you this was not going to be a nonfiction piece?
the effects were good throughout the entire the filming and the aesthetic. It definitely brought me back to like an late 80s, early 90s vibe throughout. Like I said, we see
Yes, yeah.
Madonna in it later, or a version of Madonna. The filming techniques and like the grainy film and stuff. And you can look at it and kind of definitely Sandberg definitely does kind of give off that Conseco personality very well. And I'm Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. That gets me every time, though. And I'm Mark. And then you just get Jose talking a lot more. Uh, some of these lyrics are just, I'll probably quote a few of these lyrics throughout these songs because uh, I really like them. But yeah, so then it goes pretty much right from this song into the next song, which is called uh, Uniform On, which of course starts out with the she wants to F me with my uniform on. I'll read the lyrics here, actually. Here we go. I got them right here. Because this is just a wild opening. So she said she want to fuck me with my uniform on. She grabbed me by the bat. Now it's gone. Here's a reference to the steroids. I never finish sex because I'm so juiced out. Then we have one of my favorite lines here. I reside in Black Hawk in a big fucking house. My community is gated because I don't strike out. Got a room with a chair. Got a room with a couch. Got a framed photograph of the time I met Alf. Uh, just like this picture of Alf. I loved watching Alf as a kid. Were you an Alf kid?
I was an Alf fan back in the day. I was also a fan of the cartoon and Alf Tales and all the stuff that went along with that. And then you find out the stuff that went on behind the scenes at Alf. How
Yes.
people
Yeah.
really hated it. It was not a pleasant experience for a lot of people, including I guess the dad who played Willie. Literally, like when they called cut on the final episode, he walked, grabbed his stuff, and just walked away, and like that was it. And then he definitely
Crazy.
had some very pleasant things later in his life. But Alf, I enjoyed Alf from Melmac. Yeah. Um,
So this is where I think Mark McGuire starts to shine in this special because I think they give him the best lines in this song because we get the You know I'm not a hamburger, but they call me Big Mac. Got the 1-ton Jimmy in the itty bitty sack. My balls shrinky dinky because the roids are so strong. But it makes the aforementioned Jimmy Jam look long. And then we get this wild rhyme about the name is Mark. No, I'm not Mork. And yes, I eat pork because it's tasty on my fork. But um, this is my favorite thing to sing. I think in one of the and maybe the whole thing is that opening line from Mark McGuire because he gets a little bit more to do in this opening here. Um, and then like one thing I think is really interesting if we're gonna even just take out like whatever anybody's opinion on the actual songs are, is one thing I find very interesting about this is that the songs always start out, I would say, pretty like a normal song, but it devolves into like this roid rage esque bit at the end. Like this song goes from like, you know, talking about the sex and stuff, but then we get a part where they're talking about working out, and then it just starts like the music changes, and they're like almost like metal screaming this rap lyrics as they're talking about, whipping out their dick on the Jumbotron and all this kind of stuff. So you start to see like, I feel like what they were going for here is, they're starting with normal songs, and it happens in a few of them here, and then showing that flip of the roid rage through some of this stuff where it kind of loses the plot as they just start almost like rapping faster and going off on tangents at the end of the song. Okay, any thoughts about Uniform On?
No, honestly, so I'll say this. This was difficult for me to watch in some ways because, I've said before, I live in an apartment. So I got to try and be respectful of my neighbors, right? I don't want to
No,
have
you just got to
something.
blast this.
Well, here's the problem: the bass is so heavy in these,
Oh
right,
yeah, yeah.
that I don't want to disturb my neighbors, so I got to turn it down. But then, like,
Right.
even if I hit it down like one or two notches to turn it down, so the bass isn't heavy, I can't really hear them sing. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the audio mix on it, if it was meant to be like that. Maybe it's different if I lived in a place where I didn't have to worry about disturbing my neighbors or anything like that. But it was the lyrics. Like I got most of it, but the lyrics and the
Right,
actual
right.
singing was difficult for me to get because I kept trying to have to turn it up and down. And like I said, as the music came into play, it got too heavy, and it was like, okay, I got to turn this down because I don't want my neighbors to think I'm an a hole, right? But then I can barely hear it, and I can't really. I don't do closed captioning that much because that distracts me from actually like watching what they're
Yeah,
saying.
I usually don't do closed captioning. I did do it for Weird Science in this though, because I watched them the same night, but also Weird Science, the baby was asleep upstairs and we were downstairs, but it's one of those things where like I'm sure everybody has like this experience. Every app on my damn TV is reacts different to each volume. Okay. So like a 10 on YouTube is louder than a 15 on Netflix. And I had
Yeah,
to turn up like Weird Science to like a 24 to hear to hear some of the dialogue. But then if it was like a special effect happening, it would sound
it's
insanely
massive.
loud. So I
Yeah,
had to turn it down a bit and use subtitles. And then I actually used it for this too, which actually helped getting some of the lyrics. But I also have the lyrics up on a screen here. But also it was like my third or fourth time watching it, and I sing the songs all the time on music. So it did what didn't distract me as much because I already know the stuff. So um, that was a little easier for me. But yeah, I'm not a big subtitle guy like a lot of people are nowadays.
yeah, I can't do it because all I want to do is read the subtitles, and
Yeah.
I will completely distract me from what's actually happening on the screen. So that's more of a me problem than anything. I get there.
Well, we get our first difference between the album and the special because after Uniform on the album, it goes to Let's Bash, which is the song during the credits. Uh during the special. And instead, the special goes from Uniform 1 to Oakland Nights featuring Sia. Um and that made me pause and I was like, Let's Bash is my favorite song out of them. So I was like, wait a minute, is this out of order? Like, I was so lost. I was so lost because it had been a long time since I watched this. I think I watched this special 2 times in the first day it released. I think I watched it at work that day, and then I came home and put it on. And then I bought the album and mostly have listened to the album since. So I got used to the album order,
Mm.
and did not realize that this was out of order. So it goes to Oakland Nights, which is our first kind of like slower song, not a rap song really, uh, for the song. And it features Sia, but we also actually have
Jenny
a
Slate.
special guest here, Sterling K. Brown,
Yep.
playing Sia's, like miming Sia's voice, I guess, uh, with the wig on. So, what was it like seeing? There's actually a lot of good amount of guest stars in this, actually.
Yeah,
Here, but we get
I
Sterling
wasn't.
K. Brown here,
You get Sonny K. Brown. You get Jenny
Jenny
Slate.
Slate, yeah,
Maya. What's her name?
Rudolph, yep,
Maya Rudolph. Stephanie Beatrice.
the
Um,
Haim sisters. I
I,
know them. I
I
like their
don't know who they
music.
are. I have no clue who they are.
They're a band, and they are the girls with Maya Rudolph and Stephanie that are, like singing that IHOP song. They're like a band of sisters, but yeah.
Honestly, the most thing I know Sterling K. Brown from is that episode of Brooklyn Nine Nine. Um, so like as I was watching this, I was like, is that what I think that is? And then I'm like, yeah, that is what I think that is. Um, uh, Jenny Slate is real easy to pick out. Like,
Yes.
um, this scene was pretty good with the basically the women are just not into them at all, and they are not getting names.
Yeah, they're really big into silk robes and kimonos. They're
I can see Jose
uh
Canseco during this time rocking a silk robe or kimono. Like, yeah, that
yes.
kind of face.
Again, this is not based off of
Any
anything real in
anything
my
that we know of. But if
that
I
we
had to
know of. This was just them doing it.
if I had to guess, yeah, Canseco rocked a silk robe in his place.
But yes, he I think they said in an interview that I was reading that they reached out to Sterling K. Brown because of that episode from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They had some sort of relationship from that and was able to get him to come in and do this. Because I think there was an issue with like either Sia couldn't or they wanted to have another guest star in here. Um, but yeah, so we have silk robes and kimonos. This song gets stuck in my head a lot. Um, but yeah. So then in the movie,
You also
we
get
get,
round table pizza.
oh yeah, reference to Round Table Pizza. Um, then it actually goes to Focused AF, which of course we know what that stands for. Um, the album does go to Focused AF as well. It's the next song that's going to be different, but yeah, Focused as AF. Very short song, just about them saying about how focused they are when they're playing. Um, we get a little bit of actual. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up the lyrics for this one, and it's loading very slow. Oh yeah, this one starts off pretty hot too with the walk in the party with my dick in the hand. Um, oh, and it has this great again. Mark McGuire starts becoming my favorite role here because we have him saying, "I'm Mark McGuire, buff not wiry. Alex P. Keaton is who I admire. And I know that it's true because I read it in your diary. Your spirit, your bat, and your crotch all fiery. Bash Brothers, fast lovers." Um,
Alex P. Keaton reference, yeah.
yes,
Was Family Ties off the air by then? Jeez.
probably. It was a hit by '85 because Michael J. Fox was already established and filming both that and
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future at the same time. So I don't know if it would have lasted much longer after Back to the Future.
Well, '88's only a couple years later, so it's a possibility.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get that song. Like I said, it's short. Usually it goes from Focused AF on the album to the song Focus on the Game, which is the last song before the credits in the movie version. So very curious on how they do this, but Focus on the Game is a more like, you know, slow-ish song where we get them kind of talking about, you know, focus on the game, Jose. If this thing will load, I would have more lyrics than that. Okay, so this is where they're saying like, the Oakland Coliseum, it's 1988 and the season's going well. I'm at the height of my career. Why do I feel sad? But yeah, so that is what this song is all about, which I thought is a very interesting, my first watch of this, obviously Lonely Island, I'm thinking this is all going to be funny. And there's funny lines in this song, but it actually gets a little deeper than I thought they would go, with the possibility of like what would be going through Jose Canseco's head and Mark McGuire's head as they are, maybe starting to mess with these drugs to make them feel better. And it ends that where like the Kirk Gibson hits the home run. That's what that is, and that I think that's why they moved it to the end of the special, but I'm not really sure why it's changed in the album. But yeah, just really interesting. We get lines, with them saying like, "These days I don't recognize my own face in the mirror. I'm a monster, not the man I want to be." So again, this is all speculation stuff. I mean, they did read Jose Canseco's books. I don't know if this stuff shows up in his book. I didn't have time to research anything like that, but doesn't sound like something Jose Canseco would say.
So I would say also with a book, you never know, because obviously there's probably a ghostwriter attached to it.
Yeah, true.
Obviously, I think the biggest thing that came out of Jose Canseco's book was the steroid use and him kind of, as other people would say, snitching on other people, right? But you never know. I mean, look, so I've seen things where celebrities have said, you know, they're at the height of their popularity. They have all these massive things going on, and all these friends and people around them.
Yeah,
people at their beck and call. But that's when they felt their loneliest, because it feels like nobody wants to be around them or with them to just actually be their friend, right? So, quick story. School I went to out here is called New York Film Academy. And I got a degree in photography that right? And there are people who've done various work in various industries and Hollywood and stuff. One of the instructors I had for one of the classes, I can't remember which one. She was a very well off lady. She joined this. She was involved in a country club. I think it might have been my public speaking. It was health clubs. That's what it was. So, I won't say who, but she eventually ended up at this country club that she goes to. She ended up striking up somewhat of a friendship and playing tennis with a very high named person. Where eventually, like, they ended up just being at this country club at the same time on a regular basis, and they ended up playing tennis with each other for several hours a day, right? Like, and it just kind of became a natural thing. Like, they hypothetically, like they meet up on like they be there Tuesday at like noon, and next thing you know, like they just hey, you want to grab a match? Sure. They play tennis with each other for a couple hours. You know, obviously she knew who he was, whatever. Shake hands, and they go about their day, right? Um, so she asked us for advice one time, and because a couple people had asked her, like they had wanted her to introduce them to this person, right? And she was like, part of me wants to because these are my friends, but part of me doesn't think it'd be the right thing to do. So what would you guys do? My advice to her was, I said I would. I said, this person, he obviously has a relationship with you for playing tennis and he enjoys your company, and that's great. But I said, you got to think this person is someone who everybody wants something from constantly. Like anytime they go somewhere, there's probably because it's Los Angeles and it's that area and Burbank, and there are people who are actors and writers and trying to get into the industry in various different ways, right? So like he might go get coffee somewhere and someone's trying to give him a headshot, right? He's trying to have lunch and the waiter might be trying to pass him off a script or something that he's trying to get made, right? This person, obviously he knows that comes along with their position, but everybody wants something from him, on a regular basis. If he struck up this relationship with you and you've never asked him for anything, you obviously know who he is, you've never asked him for anything, don't damage it. Like, he might have a genuine friendship with you because you don't want anything from him. You have a drink with him or have lunch with him at this country club. You guys play tennis, but you don't want anything from him except for that 2 or 3 hours a day that you play tennis and maybe have a conversation with him about stuff. I said, in my opinion, as soon as you ask him for something like that, whatever relationship you have with him is probably going to end. Because then he's going to think, well, this was just like a long game that she was playing, that, she was just ultimately trying to get something out of it. And she eventually didn't go through with, she decided she didn't want to risk that relationship, with him because she did enjoy just seeing him and playing tennis with this person and that. And she's like, you said something that, I never really thought of it. Yeah, everybody just wants something from him. So I can imagine you're Jose Canseco in Oakland. Oakland's not a huge town, right? It's a decent sized city, I guess. But, it's kind of down and out right now because everything's moved away. The 49ers have moved to Santa Clara. The Warriors have moved across the bay to San Francisco. The A's are gone, so they're definitely experiencing some harder things right now. But like, this is at the height of his popularity. Like I said, he won World Series MVP, or he's won an MVP, and all this other stuff. I can imagine for him, yeah, like he may have all these people around him, but maybe he doesn't like what he has to do to become who he is. And like I said, just all these people around him, he knows, like if he went bankrupt or, he lost all his money, got injured, couldn't play anymore, how many of those people would still be there for him? I'm sure some would.
Right.
I'm sure most of them probably would just like, oh, okay, and you never see or hear from him. So while Canseco's kind of a meathead, I think maybe some of that might be accurate. I don't know. I haven't read his book, but I can see that happening.
Yeah, and that song ends with this really good line because they do kind of turn on each other, but it says you're the man JC, you're the man Big Mac. You're the only one who knows what it truly means to bash. And if one day they should come for us and strip us of our crowns, I know that if I am going down, you are also going down. It's kind of how it plays out for them. So, um, kind of a sad moment in that, and then it goes to the next song. Like I said, on the album, Focus on the Game then goes into Bikini Babe Workout. We get a few songs here that are not very focused on the actual main storyline here. baseball. What'd you think of this Bikini Babe workout? Do you think this would actually work?
Probably. But if I had to guess, I don't. I think you can tell by looking at me. I don't know much about working out. Probably not. You never know. It could. Possible. Not
For
probable. It's
people,
possible.
for people that maybe are not following along or have not done this, you're just listening to this. Uh, the whole song's point is that these women in bikinis come in and they go towards the boys and
They think it's
uh
sexy time, but it's really not.
yes, so they tell them that to lift girls instead of weights. Man, this is nuts. So bench pressing bodacious babes in bikinis is the best bodybuilding craze, according to this. Then they also make it nice and respectful as well. One, uh, when somebody came in with sweatpants, they dismissed her because with a good bikini grip, you never risk a blister. Sweatpants slide, that's a hazard to the lifter. Um, and then we also get this. Now we got to address the elephant in the room. A lot of guys to the girls will be like, "How are you doing?" They want to take advantage and have sex with the babes who are here for a workout and not for a date. So keep your dick in your pants and treat the babes with respect. Because when you pecking at their ear, then we're not working on our pecs. So that is the main plot of bench pressing the Bikini Babes workout. Just a silly song there. And then it goes into another song that is very kind of related, right? It's about the IHOP, but it's before we get to the parking lot IHOP song. But we get Mark McGuire, talking about how the House of Pancakes is his favorite place. And he has to, he broke his necklace and slipped on the puka shells on the floor. So he had to go back to the puka shell store. This is where we get Gary, Jerry, Larry from Parks and Rec.
That man has the biggest penis I've ever seen. I
Jim
don't know if he has
O'Hare.
mumps. I didn't even check him because that man has the biggest penis I've ever seen. They did him so dirty during that show, but they
Yes.
gave him
But they
such a
gave him
great
stuff
life.
too. Yeah.
And that was exactly why, because they had messed with him so much during the show. They gave him Christy Brinkley as his wife. Like I said, the doctor's like, that man is the biggest penis I've ever seen. Like, yeah, they gave him a perfect life outside of work. It was that's one of those things I look at and makes me smile.
Yeah, so he goes back to his favorite shop. It's Jim O'Hare at the shop, selling puka shells and necklaces, and Mark McGuire snaps at him. He says, "Yo, shut the F up and put the pukas in the box." And that's where we get the puka shell man saying, "Okay, Big Mac, there's no need to be rude. I'm sorry, Bob, it's the steroids. They fuck with my mood." And again, so just another kind of hint about how the steroids are. And again, it's another song that kind of starts out a little different and then devolves as Mark McGuire gets a little bit more angrier with the steroids. So see a little bit of their reaction to that. We get the IHOP parking lots dance song, which I think is, I don't know, you tell me, is this the weirdest song of the bunch? Is this the one where you're kind of like, what am I watching here?
This whole thing was kind of like an acid trip, where I was kind of wondering what I was watching. To be honest with you, I don't know if I could rank one higher than.
Because they get to the IHOP parking lot and we get Maya Rudolph and Haim, like I said, who start telling them, "Hey, you nasty freak, shake that nasty butt." which leaves the guys to be like, us? And they said, hey, you nasty freak, shake that nasty butt. If you're a boy or a girl, do a jump and a twirl and then bounce that funky dump. Uh, and then again, they have this really nice chorus, I'll say, like very nice chorus, I feel like. But then you get to the next verse and they are still calling for them to shake those nasty butts, in which the boys are saying, hey, we are, right? Like, why you keep saying this? And then they say the weird line of shake four halves of butt. And uh what's it? Jose Canseco's like, that's phrased weird. And they're like, that's not phrased weird at all. Your mama gave you a butt, so shake that butt. And then they keep saying shake that butt for a while as the boys get separated. But then we see them at like a press conference, right? And the reporter is like, wow, it sounds like being famous is really hard. Also, would you mind shaking your butt for the camera? And the guys turn to the camera and say, see, that's what we're talking about. Which I think actually, Casey, so while this is a silly song and everything, I think this does kind of lead to your point about maybe friends and, like, when do you broach that? Does it make it seem like maybe you were playing the long con? But also in this case, it's a little bit more of the, I would say, stereotypical, um, like if these were women, it would be, sexual harassment, right? And sometimes guys, and we talked about it with Weird Science when we talked about a kid kissing an older lady and that, sometimes those things are not looked at the same way. And you even get this reporter being like, oh man, it sounds like it's really hard. And they're like, yeah, it is. And then still ask them to shake their butts, which I'm sure we've seen this type of uh, almost hypocritical thing from a, reporter, or people are known for a certain thing and they just keep telling them, hey, do that same thing that you always do. And it
Basically, like
just,
they're a trained monkey. And just
yes.
make me laugh, monkey. Like,
Yeah. And, with baseball players, there's that stereotype that women like seeing them in their baseball pants because of the way it fits around their butts. And you have this song about shaking the butt. So there is a stereotypical thing with baseball in this as well. Okay. And then we go to the song Feed the Beast. And then the song Daddy. So we got like two more songs to really talk about. Oh, and then we actually have to go back and talk about Let's Bash. But um so this song, Feed the Beast, is all about talking about everything they do is just feeding that beast. He's like, my car, my house, my kid, my spouse, my team, my dream. I got to feed the beast. My glutes, my bod. They say my God. Um, you know, uh, but talks about like the fans, the heckles. They're trying to distract me from being special. These pompous pitchers trying to strike your man out, and these scummy bloodsuckers looking for a handout. So again, people looking for stuff, friends that come out of the woodwork, right? I've had this. I don't know if you've ever had this, but like when I worked at Disney, I had people reach out to me that
oh,
I had
because they
not
wanted
talked to.
tickets and
Yes,
everything else.
that I had not talked to in years. Be like, hey, if I come down there, like, can you get me in for free? And I'm like, I just didn't really respond to the message. It's like, you made fun of me in high school. Why am I taking you into Magic Kingdom? And plus, we are kind of limited on what we can do. We have a certain number of passes we were able to use. So I was using them on my family, not
Yeah.
people that just reached out. Uh, but that happens, right? Baseball players, I'm sure, especially now that they sign these massive contracts, I'm sure they have people who come. And look, there's football players, baseball players that have lost a lot of stuff because people close to them took advantage of them. Um,
Oh,
col-
ESPN did a whole 30 for 30 on it called Broke. about
Yeah.
how athletes have lost like money because they've had friends and
There's
various
even been
things.
like college football, right? Like agents that maybe sign a deal where like when they're about to go pro, where they get more money, a certain higher percentage of um the deal and stuff, and it might escalate every so often, and it's stuff that the kids don't know that they're reading. They're trusting the lawyer, they're trusting the agent, and it backfires on them. Yeah, so we get that, and then we get the last song of the album called Daddy, and it's just this song about kind of wanting to live up to, and impress their father. So we have Mark McGuire starting with, Papa, did you see me hit a homer last night? I lit the stadium on fire. I was Oakland's pride. Did you see me? Um, and kind of asking for help here. Can you see I'm dying? And then we have uh, Jose Canseco's lines going through, little me got much bigger, faster, stronger, dad. Hit it so long, but you always want it longer, dad. But therapy's for losers, therapy's for losers. So again, that's perpetuating the uh, harmful stereotypes about people that need therapy, and um, almost like a boys don't cry type of mentality that maybe a father would pass on to them. Uh, some of the best lyrics though in this is when uh, you have Mark McGuire saying the main part, and then you would have the echo from Andy Samberg. So it's like, buy all my steroids in bulk, Costco, want to get as big as the Hulk, Hogan, stronger than Wolverine teeth, Logan, answer to where's the beef, slogan. I don't know. That just always cracks me up. Those three lines. Even though the Hulk Hogan one maybe not as much as the other ones. I like the rhyme with Logan and slogan though. Okay. And then this is where we get the reference to Madonna and the date with Madonna, right? We have Jose Canseco say, "I went on a date with Madonna. She said she wanted Cuban babies. She seemed like a smart business lady, but I did not find her physically attractive." Which I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't remember what happened. I don't know if they just went on one date or if they went on multiple dates and it ended somehow. I just know it was a big thing that at one point they were together, whether it was for a night or whether it was for a period of time. But I mean, Madonna was a huge pop star. Canseco was like the biggest athlete in America at the time. So yeah, this those two getting together, it's
So yeah, it looks like from what I was able to find, um, Jose Canseco told US Weekly magazine that Madonna's people approached him in 91 saying she was interested in meeting me. Canseco was married at the time. I'm Cuban and she wanted a Cuban child. She wanted to get married and have a child with me. So again, that's from Canseco's point of view. We don't know if this is to be believed. Right? I don't know. But I mean, he was seen apparently in 91 leaving her apartment in the early hours.
yeah.
So, but he made it sound like she just wanted him for the babies. And there's a line about that, about how she wanted Cuban babies. So, they did their research on certain stuff here. So, but then you have the flip side of Mark McGuire taking his mom out to date and all you can eat shrimp, and that she was proud of him and stuff. So he was able to get that. But again, we kind of get this outro here about keep your mouth shut. There's no snitching about the steroids. Don't F up a good thing while you got it. Which is where the album ends. Like I said, the movie went into then focus on the game, and then it goes into Let's Bash, which is my favorite of the songs. And I have to read this a couple of these lyrics here because I think they're clever. But yeah, so this is all about what the Bash Brothers actually is, right? This song is about, hey, one day we were matching forearms in the clubhouse and decided instead of giving high fives, we would bash our forearms together. And the whole song is about, just hit a 3-run home run. But if you want a high five, that's a no. I'm heading home. All my homies at home plate are waiting on me, so I got to do something great. And that's when the arms go up, like we about to drink from a cup, because we a bunch of buff dudes just flexing, acknowledging our feats via human connection. Okay, so we have my favorite lines here, which is where they name all of the baseball teams. I might be an athletic, but I'm built like a giant, and I'm wearing white socks like an angel that's flying. Met a blue jay that's fucking an oriole. You're royally screwed like a marlin exposed to the oil that a pirate or mariner spilled out of his tanker. That's a cardinal sin, padre. Man, tell it to the ranger. You feel brave, little cub. Try to sock me, but when I'm seeing red, shit is about to get rocky. I dodge your fist, beat your blood red socks soggy. Astrophysicists make you see stars promptly. I'm more hopped up than a brewer that's hyper. Sit Indian style when I'm Yankee on my tiger. I'm staring at a filly with some major league twins. If you didn't know by now, I'm naming baseball teams. And it is said rapidly fast, too. It is pretty hard to keep up at times. But that is probably my favorite bit of the whole thing. It's just naming all of the baseball teams. Though people will point this out, some of these teams were not around when this takes place, right? Like there was expansion, like the Rockies weren't around at the first part of this. The Marlins, they did drop in expos when they talk about a marlin exposed to the oil, so they tried to fit that in there, but no Nationals reference, I don't believe. So they did try to keep it, I guess, a little timely. But yeah, some of these teams were not around when this originally takes place. Okay. I guess that's it. We get the Joe Montana thing. This is something that came from the concert when they originally did Jose and Mark. Yorma was playing Joe Montana because I guess he had a character thing for him, and they kind of threw that in here at the end credits. I totally forgot about that until I rewatched this. But some text comes up on the screen at the end here saying the Athletics went on to win the 1989 World Series. So, some more behind the scenes here. Schaffer said, I read Canseco's book, and there's elements of insight from that book. And if you read the book, you will recognize certain attitudes. But at one point, we even imagined the album cover would be us as little kids in a childhood bedroom asleep with the poster above us, almost like the whole thing was in our dreams of what their lives are like. That was almost one of the ways in for us, like how it felt to be a kid. And if you imagined what it was like to be them, this video is that dream. Sandberg saying, we didn't want to make it too accurate. We also wanted to make it clear that this wasn't just a thing about them. It was more about the era and the culture surrounding it and the way it affected it. By the way, Jose Canseco, the day this movie released, took to Twitter, at The Lonely Island. Do you know what his reaction was? Do you think he liked it or didn't like it?
I don't think he was a fan of it, if I had to guess.
He said, just watched the Unauthorized Bash Brothers video. I can't stop laughing. Loved it. If you want to follow up, contact my manager and put the phone number of his manager in the tweet.
Wow, kind of surprised.
Yeah, so that was Jose Canseco's reaction. I don't know if we have a Mark McGuire reaction to this. I'm sure he probably didn't even
I
watch
doubt it.
this,
I
but
don't think he would have partaken in this.
I would love it. I would love if he would watch this and be like, "Wow." And they're like, "What's the most real thing that happened in this, Mark?" And he says, "That Bikini Babe workout is real."
That was the same thing I was thinking too. Yeah. Let's just go with the bikini workout.
How'd they know? Okay, let me see if I can find some sort of ratings for this because I don't actually know if this would be on like a Rotten
IMDb has
Tomatoes.
some individual ratings, but I looked at the IMDb ratings for people who rated it as they watched it. It literally goes from like 2 to 10. I think it's rated at like a
Yeah,
six point
yeah,
nine. I think it's a 6.9. Nice, but it like there's a bunch of tens and then there's like threes and twos and fours. So
yeah. There's no Rotten Tomatoes for it. You know what? I'll insert instead of Rotten Tomatoes, and I'll look at what Letterbox says. They have like an average, and it is on Letterbox because I logged it on there as well. And 3.5
out of five or
is
out of
this
10?
average out of 5. Yeah, on Letterbox.
I can see this is the situation of either you really love it or you hate it. Like I don't think
Yeah, and I
someone's
would
like,
also
eh,
say I would say most of the people that are logging it on Letterboxd are probably more favorable to it anyway.
yeah.
Uh, okay. So let's go to your ratings here. As you said, 6.9 on IMDb, 3.5 out of 5 on Letterbox. No Rotten Tomatoes on this one. Casey,
What did you rate it?
oh, I 5 out of 5. This
I
this is
figured, but
perfect
you
for
never know.
I will say though, I actually like the album more than the visual poem. Just I like the song order on the album better. But yes, go ahead.
So definitely wasn't what I expected initially before you told me what it was, and then it
Yeah.
still wasn't quite what I expected after you told me what it was. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't really get into this. I don't know.
Hmm.
I just part of it, like I said, was the music aspect of it, where it was so
Yeah.
wonky, and I couldn't really. I had to keep turning it up and down. Part of it, I just couldn't. I don't know. So for me, I think, like I said, I've seen some of their stuff before.
Hmm.
The Lonely Island is good in small bites. So like digging a
30
box
minutes
is
was
like
too long.
exactly like digging a box is like 3 or 4 minutes, right? Mother Lovers like four or
Right.
five
Right.
minutes. Like all the stuff they did were real small snippets. The Natalie Portman rap, like
Hmm.
2.5 minutes or 3 minutes or something, right? So you get like a quick bam, and then you're out, and then okay, it's cool. I think maybe had they done this as a series of like smaller
Hmm.
things, I could have enjoyed it more because then it could be like something where it's like one from another. I think 30 minutes of it is way too much at any one given time. So for me, I have to give it like a 2 out of 5. I just,
I'll take it.
it wasn't for
This is
me.
one that,
It,
yeah,
you enjoy it, and that's cool
yeah,
and
yeah.
great, and I can see why you would enjoy it. And I'll be honest, maybe just because I grew up watching the Bash Brothers at the time they were bashing stuff.
Hmm.
Maybe there's a nostalgia tint to it where I don't know. Um, but yeah, I'd say 2.
This is a tough one to get a read on for like when I was assigning it. I was like, I don't know if you'll like it because I don't really know. I don't really know your musical tastes or anything.
The music wasn't bad. I won't say
Okay.
any like I'm not saying like the music was bad. Like I said, the effects and the different things they did camera wise, I thought were pretty cool too. So I could probably bump it up to like a 2.5.
Hmm.
Like the work that they put into it for various other things, I thought was good. But I don't know. I think 30 minutes of look even with Brooklyn 99, like it wasn't just Andy Samberg, like right. It was a whole
Right, right.
ensemble.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think 30 minutes straight of Andy Samberg might be too much for a lot of people.
Have you seen
Um,
Palm Springs?
I have not.
That's gonna be one I probably pick later because I just watched it for the first time and it really surprised me. I really liked it. Um, and he's totally different in that, so like it's a little different. But yeah, let's get to some stats then. So, uh, I didn't count this as an adaptation because it's not really based off of his
Yeah, it's
book,
made up.
so
It's made up
it's made up.
completely on its own.
Um, all right, so we have top directors. I've put on Akiva and Mike Diva, who did this. They have one film each. Akiva could pop up again because he actually does direct some movies. I think he was the. Did he direct Naked Gun? He may have. Hold on, because The Lonely Island, I think, did something for that. Yeah. So the guy who directed this and is a member of The Lonely Island directed the new Naked Gun movie. So and wrote it. Yeah. I think your mic's on mute.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, so there you go. So if we do talk that one at any time, he could have two movies listed on here. Um, top actors. I kind of hinted at this last week or last episode. We have a sneaky one from this. Okay, so we talked last week or last episode. Arnold at 5,
Mm-hmm.
Sean Astin at 4. Yorma Taccone of The Lonely Island is at 4 appearances in these movies. He was in Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Okay.
He voices somebody in Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, and he's in the Unauthorized Bash Brothers Experience. So Yorma has been in 4 things. He's above Travolta and some of these other actors that we've had 3 times. So when I was doing my stats on Friday night, I was like, wow, all the way up to 4 now for Yorma. Did not realize that. So that's funny. Because if you look at his IMDb, he's not in like a ton. So it is funny that he's like tied for second right now for what we're doing here. Let me see if I can find out who he voiced real quick because that's gonna drive me nuts if I don't know who he voiced on Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse, he did Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, and a Peter Parker on one of the Earths. And then in Across the Spider-Verse, he was Vulture. And then in Weird, the Al Yankovic story, he played Pee Wee Herman at that pool scene that they do. And then in
Wasn't
this
Sandberg in
one,
that too?
he I don't think Sandberg was able to
Oh no, didn't
film. I
someone?
thought
Didn't you say
he
someone took a part because they couldn't get Sandberg or something?
I think so. Um Oh, Akiva was also in that too. So I'll have to he's in 2 things at least because he played Alice Cooper in that. Um Yeah, I think Andy Samberg was unfortunately busy or something with COVID, couldn't make it maybe because he's not listed. So it's funny. I mean, like Sandberg's so much more well known. We actually have the other 2 above him that we've seen. Okay, and then comedy. This is a +1 for comedy. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 comedies. I also counted it as a musical, so we have 2. We've done Grease and this. And then main character names Jose. That's a J. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 J's. And for Mark McGuire in the M's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 M's as well. Letters that we're still missing: Q, U, X, Z, I.
No, we had a Z.
Did we?
There was a Zed from Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay, we can count him. Yeah, I guess. Is he a main character? Who was that one?
He was Zed was the guy who ran the racist surplus store.
Okay, we can count him if we want. Boom. Okay, we got a Z then. So we're missing X, U, Q, I. So there you go. All right, Casey, what are we watching next?
All right. So when we are recording this, it is late September. So it is officially spooky season. We are gonna. My next two are going to be the same movie. However, one is an older version. The second one is a remake. We talked about maybe doing something like this, and at this time, both of these movies are available on Tubi. So we're gonna go back to 1985, a movie with William Ragsdale, Roddy McDowall, Chris Sarandon, and Amanda Burse, who went on to become Marcy in Married with Children. A little movie called Fright Night.
Okay.
It is a Alfred Hitchcock Rear Window type movie where you have a young man young high school man who has a neighbor moving next door who he sees through his window and is convinced his next door neighbor is a vampire. But as with what would happen with all of these things, of course, nobody believes. Because why would you believe a 15 or 16-year-old kid who says his next door neighbor is a vampire? And the shenanigans that ensue. So the original came out in 1985. There was supposed to be, well, there was a sequel. I think there was supposed to be a third. But there was a tragedy that happened, which we'll talk about next time, that stopped that. A major news story that we're still seeing stuff on about nowadays that stopped another sequel from this happening, right? And then they remade it because I saw it, oh man, in 2011.
2011.
Yes.
2011 it says. Craig Gillespie directed the remake. He is the director of Supergirl coming out next year.
I did not know.
And he did I, Tonya, I think. So
the newer version has Anton Yelchin, who was in Star Trek. I think this was the last movie he did before he died.
Tragically.
Yeah, that was horrible. And who's Bullseye in the first Daredevil?
Colin Farrell?
Yes, Colin Farrell is in the new version.
Penguin in the new Batman.
Yeah, he is.
He's been all over. Yeah,
he is in the 2011 version of
Interesting.
Fright Night. I will say this: I'm a straight now, and I never really understood what people saw in Colin Farrell. Like, I get it. Okay, people thought he was good looking, but I was like, I don't get it. But whatever. After seeing the 2011 version, I was like, okay, I kind of get it.
Oh, so you're saying we're getting sexy Colin Farrell in this movie?
You're getting the second one. You're getting a smoldering Colin Farrell in the remake, which, yeah, I don't know if those words ever really came out of my mouth before, but like I said, after seeing that, I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. Like, that.
So I guess, how do we want to do this? Do we want to do? Are these different enough? Because you've seen them.
Yes.
To do like, we watch this one, we do my pick, and then we go back to it, or are we like watching them both and then discussing? Or
each one is about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
Okay.
So, I mean, do you think you can handle seeing two of them and discussing it 2 separate weeks, or do you think if we do an extended type version of the episode, we can fit both of them?
That's what I'm trying to think about because I'm like, while we're recording right here, this is going to set precedents on how we do this. Because anytime there's a movie, if
If
we
we,
want to
if,
do this and a remake,
yeah. I know you talked
it's
about
like a
you had
Supreme
some
Court
idea.
case right now.
You had something in mind you wanted to do as well. So yeah. However, um,
Because I
I
was
don't
just
know.
thinking too when you said this initially, like there's I was thinking of like I want to watch Total Recall at one point, but they have a new one and an old one of that too. So I'm like, but I haven't seen these things, so I have no clue on if these movies are different enough to do two separate weeks of it, or if we should just try to do it like in
I would
one.
say for sure they're different enough because one was made in 1985 and deals with 1985 things. And the other one is
Okay.
based in Las Vegas, made in 2011. So there is a
Okay.
distinct difference. It also has 2011 one. Who is the guy from Jessica Jones who played Doctor Who? David
Oh,
Tennant.
David Tennant.
David Tennant
Yes.
is also in the remake.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Um, I'll let you decide on how you want to do this because you know the movies. So if you want to do it two separate weeks, that's fine.
Here's my only question. I know you're not a big horror movie fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you deal with watching two horror movies like back to back, or like in the same night, or then like a 2 night period? There's not a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean, I
blood and
would.
gore. There's not. It's not like a bloody and gory type movie either of them. So it's not like
Right.
you're
No,
watching something like Saw or like Hostel or anything like that,
those
where
are the
there's
main ones. When I say I don't like horror, I'm usually referring to like Saw
there's,
and stuff
there's
like
not a ton of gore or anything like that. It's more of like a spooky, scary type thing.
that. I could probably do two this week, like watching it.
Okay. They are both on Tubi, so we will watch. You get two for the price of one next week, baby. We will. We will.
Because I think it'd be good to discuss too. We might just have to shorten the time on each one, but like we could
Then
also
we can
talk a little
discuss
bit of
the
like
differences between the two.
differences. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Instead of
Um.
like 3 weeks later, because then we'd have my movie in there too.
Yeah, and
Being
and
like,
especially
what's the
and it's
difference? Yeah.
and honestly, also especially as they're coming out 2 weeks apart, that'll put this
Yes. It'd
probably
be
in
like
like
a month
November.
later. Yeah.
It'd probably be like November, close to December by the time the second one comes. It's no
Yeah.
longer
It's our
close to spooky
Christmas
season.
special is the Fright
It's
Night
spooky.
2011.
Yeah. Okay, so we will
Um,
do two at once. I can do that.
okay. I think that's good. I think that's a good idea. So that's precedent here. If we ever want to do another twist like this of I'm going to
unless
give
they're
you
like
the
unless they're like 3 hours long. If it's like a Lord of the Rings type thing where they're like 3 hours long, we
here's
gotta
Lord of
split
the
that shit
Rings
up.
and
Yeah.
here's the remake. Yeah.
Here's the Hobbit, which we gotta watch all three, and here's the old Hobbit cartoon that came out in 1981. No,
Yes,
that's way
exactly.
too much. So but yeah, these are like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes or something. So
Yeah, I'll probably just watch these on two separate nights and just have my notes and do it that way. So
I'm not sure if you're gonna have your wife watch, because once again, Colin
probably
Farrell
not.
is smoldering in the second one. So
Okay. So
that
you're
is
more worried, like not her being scared of it, but like I
I
might
don't know how
lose my
she feels
wife.
about vampires or horror movies. That's something I don't have the knowledge of. But
She liked Twilight.
I mean, she has to think vampires cool, but a smoldering Colin Farrell that could help or hinder your relationship, man. I don't know. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like,
They are both an hour 45. So they're like they are both an hour 45. So that's I just looked it
three,
up.
3.5, yeah. And you know what? That's with credits too. So the other one
Yeah,
is probably
it's a little shorter.
yeah. The other one is probably a little closer to an hour 45 because I don't think we had 25 minutes of credits. The newer one is probably considerably shorter because
Yeah, longer credits.
now we have longer credits in there. So,
alrighty, well, Fright Night 85 and 2011. Next episode. You can watch them on Tubi with us if they're still on there by then. If not, I guess you rent or
purchase. As of September 21st, they are on Tubi. So
yes. And I actually just double checked that because I went to just watch and it did not say that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It wasn't on there, but when it's weird because it doesn't show it. But when like you look at something else on Just Watch and it pops up, it shows it's on Tubi. So yeah, I had to go.
Yeah,
to
it's
Tubi
weird.
myself.
Yeah, I don't know.
I had to go myself.
because I just double checked it too.
But I think I also have one.
Well,
so I must have.
Season 3, 2 episodes in, we've had a musical, we've had a comedy coming of age, and now we're about to have our venture into the horror genre with Fright Night. Thank you all for watching and listening along. We'll catch you next time when we double dip the chip and go to talk 2 Fright Nights.
You don't double dip the chip.